my name is Jorge Cervantes. I'm going to present you my evidence number 3 of contemporary law. I'm going to make as quickly and I'm going to talk as quickly as I can. Well, I'm going to present you first like 5 or 6 events that happened since 1991 until today. It's because I searched a lot of information and I put like 3 events for each year, the most important obviously. So that makes a totally of 45 events, so I'm just going to talk like maximum of 15 minutes. So if I explain all the events, I'm just going to spend more than 15 minutes and I have a lot of information to tell you. So we're going to start with 1991. In August 18, the USSR suffered a coup when President Mikhail Gorbachev is arrested by a group of critics led by liberal reforms being carried out. And in December 31st of the same year, the Union of Soviet Social Republics disappears. Then we have in 1998, on September 27, Larry Page and Sergey Brin decided to create Google instead to provide the world with a search engine enhanced to Internet. It is in this day when Google makes its first appearance on the Internet. In the 2001, April 7, NASA launched the Mars Odyssey spacecraft, which will reach Mars in October and transmit to their picture and scientific data of great value. September 11, the most barbarous terrorism and graffiti shakes the heart of the West. The Trade Center in New York, United States, towers are reduced to rubble impact of previously kidnapped 2 planes online. And well, finally, I'm going to tell you because we don't have too much time. In June 18, 2015, in the New York Synod Hall in Vatican City, the second encyclical of Pope Francisco, Laudato Si, Praise Be, it is presented. In July 14, in Vienna, Austria, the United States and Iran and 6 other international powers sealed a nuclear pact through which access to Iranian atomic bomb in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions against the Asian countries' laws. And in November 13, France suffered multiple attacks from Islamic State. That has been a controversial subject. Well, now I'm going to start by describing some terms. The first one is globalization. Globalization is a process of interaction and integration between people, companies and government of different nations. It is a process in terms of trade and investment in the international arena, which has to the support of information technologies. This process produces effects of the environment, culture, political system, economic development, and prosperity, as well as physical well-being of human beings that makes society around the world. The next one is terrorism. Terrorism is a set of violent acts used to generate terror in the people of a particular country. The goal of terrorists is to achieve political goals by force rather than reason. Reprehensible acts that damage often large number of innocent people. I really don't know why they do that, because they don't need to kill innocent people just to have what they want to. But let's leave this discussion for other day. Then we have the unipolar world. The unipolar world is a country where only one opinion, capitalism or superpower, like the United States, it is accepted, and it is characterized by the rule. The collapse of the Soviet Union, which has been or had been the opponent of the West for more than 70 years led the creation of a new world order in which the United States assumed the role of hegemon. This new world, free from tension characterized of the Cold War, has facilitated United States intervention and its allies in various conflicts outside in the United Nations. This raises a unipolar world. A unipolar world has a hegemonic, dominating state that holds a significant amount of power economical, military, and politically. Then we have the digital era. So, digital era. The digital term is commonly used to refer to all systems that represent, store, or use information in binary. That is almost all electronic and computing devices around us. So digital era is what we are living today, giving the qualifier digital era when all computing devices that emerge from contemporary times, such as the one that we are living today, can be operated with fingers, such as touchscreen phones, keyboards, and smart TV, etc. So the reasoning is based on which, if not use fingers, should not be called so. And then it comes a time when I'm going to explain you another time the same terms but in a different point of view. So I'm going to make a description that allows me to connect each term with the list of events that I already told you and I provided previously, the 45 events that I told you. So, globalization. When nations interact in many senses, cultural, traditional, technological, political, and economic ways, they can gather and work together to found or release things that benefit the whole world with advances. What they develop each other and gather projects, ideas, trade, etc. can help to all those different ways to be in touch with each other, and they can be in a state of peace. Nowadays the world is in need of the harmony and integration to develop the world in a different way that can benefit people who live in it and the environment in which those people live, no matter the place in which they are, the union strength. So, terrorism, when the violent acts that are generated and used to intimidate, frighten, scare, or quell other places that are already in their look is terrorism. That's my definition. The ones who practice or make terrorism are people with determined objectives that make the innocent people to pay what a superior from a nation does. And as I mentioned before, with the terror, the attention is given. Terrorism is recognized most as part of organization. Among the reasons are the following: to create fear among population, to convince people of one country over the failure of his government to prevent terrorism, and get publicity for their projects. The methods used include physical damage such as torture, kidnapping, and even murder. Also, they use moral damage and threats and social pressure in social pressures also. Well, in addition, damage to public and private property is another form of terrorism that use bombs or cause fires. Today, one of the most common and more destructive forms of terrorism are attacks to aim to destroy military targets or to kill people in mass. They can use these chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. Here also comes a term that catches a lot of my attention, and it is cybernetic terrorism. So, there are some cases of massive spying between countries to cause damage, and it is considered terrorism. Then we have the unipolar world. In this, in the first part, I mentioned key information between nations and the unipolar world that surrounds them. The term is used to describe a power structure of one superpower that is dominating certain territory alone. According to some structural realists, unipolarity is very unstable. Why? Because of its progress toward multipolarity, when other powers will seek to break the hegemony of the superpower, for example. For this explanation, I wanted to add a phrase written by Jean-Jacques Rousseau in 1762 that is describing perfectly what I mentioned just before. The phrase is the next one. The strongest is never enough to always be master. So, finally, the digital era, a very neat one in our time. Things started to change in base of new discoveries according to the needs of people. Technology is much known word that has been an essential part of humans since years ago. As we know, nowadays electronic things are used mostly with only the touch of our finger without having to click a button. So, countries are in constant fights to achieve the best things for the market and to have the best products so they can be safe. And now I'm going to answer some questions. So, why did globalization emerge? To understand why globalization emerged, we need to define its origin, especially to put the origins of globalization at the modern era, but others consider the phenomenon with a larger history. Andre Gonder was an economist who defended deep historical globalization associated with the dependence theorem. He exposed that different types of globalization had existed since the Sumerian and the Indian Valley civilization commercial links emerged in the 3rd millennium before Christ. Thomas Friedman, an American journalist, divided the history of globalization in 3 periods, in which the first one exposed the globalization of the countries, in the second one the companies, globalization, and finally in the third one the globalization of individuals. Then we have the proto-globalization, that is characterized by the European naval empires in the 16th and 17th centuries. The modern globalization started in the 19th centuries, where industrialization permitted the production of cheap articles, while rapid population growth created sustained demand for raw materials. So globalization emerged because of the evolutionary necessity given by the population increase. So, if I tell you, in most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of 20th century, well, the 20th century terrorist attacks were caused mostly by political issues. These acts were caused by people who were part of non-governmental groups. They acted in 2 or more countries, and they obtained normally proceed from drug and gun traffic. This century was a period especially conflicted in what armed violence is referred. More than 100 significant conflicts were developed between the end of the World War II and the end of the century. Then, how does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? So, they're related and going together. The transition to the unipolar system that is used now, the 21st century, has brought major changes since the end of the Cold War. Those changes are reflected in different areas, such as political and social ones, with the United States emerging as a whole superpower and the help of the new system. The total number of armed conflicts has decreased, despite the numbers of terror attacks. The end of the Cold War framework, because as we know, the USSR and the United States were in constant war. The USSR, to be the head of the socialists, had some countries giving them support, and this entailed large expenditures, soldiers, vehicles, and etc. Finally, how has the digital era influenced today's society? Well, technological convergence brought about by the so-called digital revolution era. So I have explained a lot of information of this, and I think this question has already an answer. Finally, this is the end of my presentation, and I'm going to leave you here some of the bibliographic that I use in APA format, and you can search more information in those bibliography. Thank you for your attention.